Today, perhaps more than ever, we are told that connection is the ultimate virtue, a psychological tax we must pay to remain relevant in a world that thrives on the noise of the many. You are instructed to be empathetic, to be accessible, to be a team player, and to vibrate at the same low-frequency hum as the herd. But there is a truth so visceral, so hauntingly inconvenient, that society would rather medicate you than admit it. A healthy, calculated dose of misanthropy is the ultimate filter for genius. It is the tactical withdrawal of your most precious assets from a market that has already declared spiritual bankruptcy. When you stop trying to love everyone, you finally gain the clarity to observe them, and in that observation, you find the fire required to build your own empire. Imagine the archetypal subject of our era, a 2D animated avatar of the socially adjusted man, fluttering frantically from group chat to networking event, terrified of a notification-free screen. He is a master of performative empathy, nodding along to the repetitive scripts of his peers, paying a biological tax of time and focus to maintain alliances with people who would forget his name the moment he stopped being useful. In the Machiavellian theater of the absurd, this isn't virtue, it's a tragedy of errors. Niccolo Machiavelli, the architect of cold-blooded reality, understood that humans are by their very nature ungrateful, fickle, deceptive, and hiders of their true intent. To hate them is not an act of malice, it is an act of forensic psychology. It is the realization that if you build your house on the shifting sands of public opinion, you are merely a tenant in your own life, waiting for an eviction notice from a mob that doesn't even know its own mind. You sit there, vibrating with the exhaustion of being accessible, wondering why your bank account of personal power is perpetually overdrawn. It is because you have treated your attention like tap water, letting every emotional grifter and social parasite turn the handle and drink their fill. But the monk mode for genius begins with a radical, offensive refusal to participate in the grand satirical comedy of the average. To hate everyone, in this context, is to establish an internal border patrol. It is the realization that 99% of the noise around you is designed to keep you at the baseline, distracted, manageable, and broke. By adopting a stance of strategic detachment, you are not becoming a hermit, you are becoming an enigma. You are reclaiming the thousands of neural firings you once wasted, wondering what they thought, and redirecting them toward the singular, terrifying pursuit of your own mastery. Consider the stoic brilliance of Marcus Aurelius, who sat at the peak of the Roman Empire and looked at the squabbling masses not with affection, but with the cold, measured eye of a scientist observing a colony of ants. He understood that to be disturbed by the opinions of the mediocre is a form of self-inflicted slavery. Epictetus taught that the only thing you truly own is your volition, your ability to grant or withhold your assent. When you stop liking people, and more importantly, when you stop needing them to like you, you have just initiated a total market crash on their leverage over your soul. You are no longer a consumer of social validation. You are the sovereign architect of your own inner citadel. The misanthrope isn't the one who is angry. The misanthrope is the only one in the room who is finally at peace because he has stopped expecting the circus to act like a cathedral. Stop now and audit the social tax you have been paying. Every hour spent listening to a drama you didn't create, every evening wasted on a check-in with a fake friend, and every ounce of guilt you feel for wanting to be alone, these are the bricks you should have been using to build your own monument. The crowd calls your solitude loneliness because they are terrified of the mirror that appears when the noise stops. They need you to stay in the huddle so they don't have to face the vast, quiet void of their own unlived potential. But you are a creature of purpose, and your genius requires the oxygen of silence. In the 2D animated world of the masses, your hatred is actually a high-standard refusal to accept mediocrity as your baseline. It is the birth of the genius mode, where the static of the world is tuned out to make room for the symphony of your own ambition. Imagine the liturgical waste of the average weekend, a sequence of meaningless rituals where the characters are trapped in a feedback loop of social obligation. They gather in crowded spaces to shout over music they don't like, consuming poison to tolerate people they barely respect, all while performing for a digital audience that isn't even watching. In the Machiavellian calculus, this is not leisure. It is a total liquidation of your temporal assets. The genius recognizes this theft and initiates a radical, cold-blooded withdrawal. This misanthropy you feel is not a disorder. It is your survival instinct finally waking up. You are beginning to hate the noise because you have finally discovered the value of the signal. Machiavelli once observed that men are so simple-minded and so dominated by their immediate needs that a deceiver will always find someone who will let himself be deceived. By withdrawing into the shadows of your own mission, you are refusing to be either the deceiver or the deceived. You are opting out of the grand satirical game of social arbitrage. While the vector-animated crowd is busy arguing over the latest political theater or the trivial scandals of digital ghosts, the monk mode practitioner is busy building a reality that is unshakable. You have realized that being liked is actually the lowest form of status. If everyone likes you, it means you are useful to everyone. It means you are a public utility, a park bench, a piece of communal property. But a king is never communal. A king is a destination, a fortress, a closed-loop system of power. To be hated by the mediocre is the highest form of endorsement. It proves that you are no longer operating on their level. Stop and observe the frantic psychology of the nice person in your orbit. This character is terrified of the silence that monk mode creates. They use their kindness as a desperate anchor to keep themselves relevant in your life. But look closer. Their empathy is a hook, their support is a debt, and their check-ins are actually surveillance. They need you to stay broken, stay available, and stay average so they can feel superior by helping you. Machiavelli would warn you that those who help you rise are often the first to feel threatened by your elevation. When you enter the genius mode of total isolation, you are cutting the strings of these emotional puppeteers. You are realizing that the only way to find your true limits is to remove the voices that tell you where your limits ought to be. This isn't cruelty, it is the surgical removal of necrotic social tissue. The satirical tragedy of modern dating and friendship is the expectation of constant 24/7 transparency. Society demands that you keep your digital doors open at all times, that you respond to every ping, and that you show your work to the masses. But the Stoic masters like Seneca would look at your smartphone and see a leash. Seneca famously noted that we are not given a short life, but we make it short by wasting it on things that do not matter. Every time you participate in a group chat, you are giving away a minute of your life that you will never see again. The monk mode for genius is a declaration of bankruptcy on the expectations of others. You are telling the world that your time is now a luxury good, and you are currently the only customer who can afford the price. You have moved your headquarters to the inner Citadel, and you have pulled up the drawbridge not because you fear the storm, but because the people in the storm are simply too loud and too boring to be allowed inside. Provoke yourself to look at the 2D animated version of your old life. See that character? He was a good guy. He was reliable. He was a great friend. And what did it get him? A scattered mind, a shallow bank account, and a spirit that felt like it was being stretched over a frame made of other people's agendas. The hatred you feel now is the healthy immune response to that life. It is the realization that to be a genius in your field, whether it's art, code, business, or the simple art of being yourself, you must first become a ghost to the world. You must be willing to be the villain in their stories so that you can be the hero in your own. The misanthropy is the lens that brings the world into terrifyingly sharp focus. You aren't hating them as individuals, you are hating the gravitational pull of their collective mediocrity. The final stage of this monastic evolution is not a state of eternal anger, but a state of crystalline, terrifyingly calm indifference. Imagine the 2D animated finale of your old self. The character who once lived and died by the vibration of his pocket has finally dropped the phone into the ocean of his own focus. You have reached the point where the misanthropy that served as your initial armor has melted away, revealing a core of such immense self-possession that the word loneliness sounds like a foreign language. You are no longer hating the crowd because you are no longer aware of the crowd. They have become background radiation, a faint static in the universe that has no power to disrupt your broadcast. You have achieved the ultimate Machiavellian subversion. You didn't win their game. You simply stopped acknowledging that the game existed. Observe the satirical wreckage of the social ecosystem you left behind. The friends who once called you an anchor are now drifting aimlessly, looking for a new source of drama to fill the silence you left. They try to send the bait texts, the cryptic updates, the fake emergencies, the hooks of nostalgia. In the vector-animated theater of their minds, they expect you to be sitting in a dark room, rotting in your own bitterness, waiting for their permission to rejoin the light. They cannot comprehend a reality where you are thriving in the dark. They cannot imagine that you have used the bricks of their rejection to build a cathedral where you are the only deity. Machiavelli noted that people should either be caressed or crushed, and by choosing monk mode, you have performed a psychological crushing so absolute it didn't even require a single insult. You simply withdrew the light of your attention and let them wither in the cold. Provoke yourself to look at the genius you have cultivated in the silence. While the herd was busy performing for each other, you were busy mastering the deep work that is the only true currency of the elite. You have realized that your brain is a biological supercomputer that has been running NPC scripts for decades, scripts written by your parents, your teachers, and your toxic exes. Monk mode is the process of formatting the hard drive. You have cleared the cache of social expectation and deleted the cookies of external validation. What remains is a raw, terrifyingly efficient processing power. You are now capable of thoughts that the average mind cannot even perceive because their bandwidth is entirely occupied by the "what will people think" protocol. You aren't just smarter, you are operating on a different frequency of reality. The Stoic masters, like Epictetus, spoke of the open door. He taught that if the room is smoky, you can always leave. You have left the smoky room of modern social desperation. You have found that the hatred you felt for everyone was actually just a profound, unarticulated love for your own potential. You hated the noise because it drowned out your signal. You hated the people because they were the static. But now, in the temple of your own character, the signal is loud, clear, and magnificent. You have achieved the state of ataraxia, the unshakable stillness of a soul that has found its own gravity. You no longer need to shock them with your success because the success itself has become your natural environment. You don't perform your wealth, your wisdom, or your strength. You simply inhabit them. Look at the final frame of this animation, a character standing on the peak of a mountain he built himself, looking out at a horizon that is no longer cluttered by the jagged pixels of the past. The city of validation is a distant flickering light, miles below and miles away. He doesn't look back. He isn't walking toward a person or a group. He is walking toward the sun of his own infinite potential. He has realized that the greatest monk mode is not the absence of people, but the absolute absence of the need for people. You have found the inner citadel, where the only voice that matters is the one that tells you to keep building, keep rising, and keep ignoring the chatter of the ants below. You are the architect, the king and the ghost. You have learned that the world does not give you your value. The world only tries to negotiate it down. By walking away from the table, you have kept the full price for yourself. The hatred was the fire, the isolation was the forge, and the peace you feel now is the tempered steel of a soul that can never be manipulated again. You are free. You are formidable. You are, in the eyes of the mediocre, a mystery. But in the eyes of the mirror, you are finally, magnificently yourself. The only way to truly own your life is to become the one person nobody in it can afford to buy.